how to,
Okay, looks like we're back in business. So over the last several months, you have heard me talk about many times the improvement project that's being developed for the Bear Branch, Panther Branch, and which would benefit Research Forest Drive, along with a number of neighborhoods in MUD 47, MUD 7, and MUD 67. And just to recap, the project, as we see it, has two components, two benefit components. One is the drainage improvements that are going to occur for the neighborhoods in MUD 47 and 7 and 67. Let me see if I can pull that up. Can you see my pointer okay here?
I just see black. Oh, now I got it. Yes.
Okay, so here's Research Forest Drive, Gosling. Here's Panther Branch along here, Bear Branch along here, predominantly MUD 67 area clouded in the red, MUD 47 area clouded in the purple, MUD 7 area and improvement area clouded in the blue. So these neighborhoods will see a big benefit from a drainage standpoint. But from a commerce and mobility standpoint, Research Forest Drive, the water surface elevation will be lowered over 2 feet, up to 2.5 feet during major rain events. So it's going to remain open for traffic. Unfortunately, where these circles are, this area here, in this area were designed where Research Forest would be inundated during major storm events. This area is actually below the floodplain, as is this area. So the improvements would create a situation where Research Forest Drive would remain passable to through traffic during these major events, in addition to the drainage improvements from the neighborhood. So we'd have a mobility, commerce type benefit, and then a drainage improvement benefit. For the drainage improvement, let me see here. Can you see this screen now?
The accounting? No, not yet.
See anything?
I'll let you know when I.
Yep, we see a map.
Yeah, I see a map as well. This is the one you were showing with the color.
Okay. Here again is Bear Branch running through, here's Kirkendall, coming down Woodlands High School, Gosling. Here's Panther Branch running up through this area. So what you're seeing is the drainage area. Each of these MUDs contributes flow into Bear Branch. So they are essentially contributing runoff into Bear Branch that is resulting to Research Forest being inundated and not passable. So what we have done is taken the drainage area for each of the MUDs, MUD 46, MUD 47. You can see MUD 47 has the biggest drainage area that drains into Bear and Panther Branch. MUD 46 has a portion, MUD 60 has a portion. So we've taken those combined drainage areas and divided that up proportionally as to what MUD is contributing to stormwater runoff in Panther and Bear Branch. And based on that, we have put together an allocation. The project is estimated to be about 10 million. And then we've got a commerce and mobility benefit that we're allocating about 3 million to, and a drainage benefit shared with these three MUDs of about 7 million. So Metro Center MUD met Monday afternoon and agreed that the commerce and mobility benefit they wanted to contribute, because the central business district, the Metro Center area, they see would have a benefit from Research Forest remaining open and passable during major rain events. So they've agreed to contribute 1 million to this commerce and mobility benefit. So if you look at the each individual MUD's drainage area, and then the 3 MUD's drainage benefit based on the area and the household, number of households, this would be the total allocation that we're requesting from the various MUDs to participate. Metro doesn't have any drainage area, no neighborhoods that benefit. Theirs is strictly a commerce and mobility contribution. MUD 46 has some drainage area, but no really has commerce, is contributing to the research being inundated, but they don't have any homes that are going to benefit. So the summary is MUD 47 has both a component for the drainage area and a component for benefit to your homes and neighborhoods. And so we're requesting and recommending your total contribution would be about $2,680,000. And just to recap, MUD 67 has carried the responsibility of sponsoring this. They have made it clear all along that, you know, if it were to get approved, that they see that others should contribute. And I think that's a reasonable request on their part. And Brian, do you have any other comments or observations to add?
This is Brian. Thank you, Jim. So where we are right now is the MUD 67 has been able to be approved for the loan and the grant through Water Development Board. And as Jim mentioned, they are not willing to be responsible for more than half of the cost of the project, and they've said that they are willing to go and try to obtain approval from the Water Development Board for the project, which they have. But then in order to move forward with the project, they would need at least half cost share from other participants. So Jim has worked to put together this cost allocation, and key to this was getting Metro's support, because without that, the cost allocations would be more difficult for some of the other participants, and this does make it a feasible option. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Nobody's talked about the financials. What's the run rate cost of this loan and participation? Does anybody have those numbers? I mean, so if we take 2.6, how's that hit our financials? And then the second thing, I guess, is what nobody's talked about the loan's term. Is that a 3-year term, 5-year, 10-year? I mean, what's the term on this money?
Okay, so this is Brian. So let me back up just a bit. So the way the application worked is that 67 was the sponsor. 67 is the only entity that is approved to issue any bonds. They are willing to issue up to, and they're limited in their remaining bonding capacity. So they are willing to issue up to roughly 5 million in bonds for this project, and then the other participants would be putting up money in cash into an escrow account, and then 67 would issue the Texas Water Development Board bonds and put those funds into escrow, and the engineering, design, planning, and construction costs would be paid for out of that escrow account, and there'd be a final accounting at the end and a true up and all that good stuff, pursuant to an interlocal agreement among the various participants. And what is driving the train from a timetable perspective right now is the Water Development Board, as part of the approval process, said that they want 67 to move forward and close on bonds by the end of November of this year. There is the ability for a potential one-time 3-month extension, and 67 is working to obtain that extension that would push the closing out into February. 67 doesn't want to go through the process of issuing those bonds and incurring the soft costs, et cetera, associated with that, if they don't have the other partners for the remaining portion of the project. So that's one of the funding partners need to get identified now, and then an interlocal agreement drafted and approved before 67 would move forward with their bond issue. So for 47, the 2.6, 2.7 would be in cash put into the escrow. You could use your bond proceeds that were attributable to the water, wastewater, and drainage ditch rehabilitation expenses. That's about a little under 1.7 million. Those funds you could repurpose for this project without issue. You do have your other funds, 2.9 and change, that were attributable to the 1488 project. That's for the board to decide if you would want to repurpose any of that and any reimbursements that would be attributable to that project paid out of your operating, or if you wanted to pay for the remainder of the 2.7, so roughly $1 million out of some of your operating reserve. And in your financial report for this month, you'll see that the district has a healthy operating reserve of about $6.5 million. So it's something you could definitely cash flow and definitely be in a position to participate in this project that would provide for enhanced regional drainage that would benefit 47 if you chose to do so. It would not put the district in a untenable or adverse financial position.
So Brian, I'm still trying to understand. We're talking about cash here. I thought this was a loan. What's the term of the loan? If it's $10 million, what's the term? Is it zero interest on it? Does anybody know what that is? I mean, is that some?
This is Brian. Yes, the loan that 67, the bond, and it's a bond issue. It's a loan from Water Development Board in the form of a bond issuance by MUD 67 that would be for, I believe it's a 30-year term at 0% interest for MUD 67. They would issue that bond in the amount of roughly $5 million, and that portion would be contributed into the escrow for the construction of the project. And then there would also be at the end a portion.
Yeah, I thought it was
a portion of funding in the form of a grant that would be, I think it's ultimately be about 10% of what the loan amount would be. So if it was a $5 million loan bond issue from 67, then the grant funds would end up being about $500,000, roughly. Does that answer your question, Paul?
Yes and no. I mean, I understand it. I just don't, going into our reserves is, I mean, if they're giving us 30 years, I mean, I don't understand why we can't do a straight amortization, take the full amount of money and repay it to 67. Is that because 67 doesn't have authorization to go that high, or what?
This is Brian. That's correct. They do not have authorization to go that high, and only the applicant sponsor can issue those bonds that were approved. So 67 was the sponsor and applicant for the loan grant program. So they're the only ones who are eligible for that financing. You can't have another district come in and avail themselves of the financing. And I mean, 47 for that matter doesn't have any remaining, ad valorem authorization either. We've talked about that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So Maureen, what's do you know what the number is on replenishment of for us on an operating basis for the 2.6? that's referenced here?
Do not offhand. I'd have to check into that and get back with you.
Okay,
And this is Brian again. What we're talking about would be at a minimum 1.7 of the 2.7 would be coming from your capital projects from the bond issue you issued last year, because it does include the drainage ditch rehab as one of the authorized projects. So at most, if you didn't use any portion of the 1488 allocated funds, then you would be using at most $1 million of your operating reserve.
So this
Got
is
it.
just
What-
a- Sorry, Paul, go ahead.
no, the only other question I have is when do we need to make a decision and vote on this, whatever the proposal ends up being? What does that got to be done by, Brian?
This is Brian. So what we were looking for this evening is an indication from this mud cycle from each of the potential participants as to their willingness to contribute up to that amount that's listed on the spreadsheet. So the 2.7, and again, this is going on the estimated cost of 10 million, and there's still a good bit of work to be done to refine the environmental and other related expenses by LJA. So they're working on that. But right now, assuming it's 10 million, the cost that would be attributable to 47 would be at roughly 2.7. So it'd be approving moving forward with the project and that cost allocation for MUD 47 and authorizing the preparation of an interlocal agreement. The approval of the interlocal agreement would be the final approval by the district to move forward with this. And then once that's done, 67 would move forward with the bond issue. So you basically have two bites at the apple, but we don't want to go through the exercise, and 67 doesn't want to go through the exercise of us trying to get an agreement in place for all the other participants unless we have buy-in. And Jim is also working on trying to get some additional participants if we can, namely the township and possibly the county. It's impossible to handicap the likelihood of that partnership occurring and what the funding amount would be if it did occur. But those efforts are being made to try to get additional participation if we can. But because of the Water Development Board's time frame, we do have to move things along to see if we've got a deal.
Okay.
Right. So my internet was getting shaky, so I missed a big chunk of that conversation. But I understand this is a preliminary discussion, so I'm not that concerned about it yet. I would like to know what the methodology was in determining what the commerce/mobility benefit was, how we're going to benefit from that, because I understand mobility is great when it rains, people need to get to the hospital or whatever. But the commerce part, we don't collect sales tax. So I would argue that that's the township's commercial benefit. And that's probably why the Metro Mud is paying, right? I would like to examine and kind of dig into those numbers. Jim, when you get a chance, you could send that to me, the spreadsheet. And
Do you see the spreadsheet? Is it on your screen?
I do now, but I didn't
Okay.
see it when you were explaining it.
Okay, yeah, and the MUD 46 portion of that is based on drainage area. That 22.8% is you have 22.8% of the area that drains into Bear Branch and Panther Branch in that area.
MUD 47, Jim, this is Brian.
Excuse me, MUD 47 has 46.5%, excuse me. Would you like for me to pull that drawing up one more time?
No, that's okay. I don't want to lose. I understand the numbers better than I do maps.
Okay.
So the drainage benefit, how is that attributed to us then? Is that?
That's based on actually homes and neighborhoods that are benefiting from it.
Okay, so you're saying that of all the flow into Bear Branch, we are contributing 46.5% of the flow into that Bear Branch, but only 25% of the homes.
That's right.
So the homes just
Area
have
being
much bigger
benefited
lots.
is based on lots and area, yeah.
Mhm.
Um, Okay, so is there, so at what point will we be asked to commit to this?
This is Brian. We're looking for an indication of support through a motion to participate in the project and authorize preparation of the interlocal agreement, and then the final approval would be when the actual interlocal agreement's approved. But we're trying to get a sense of each district's willingness to contribute, so we can either see if another district's willing to pick up the slack, which I think is going to be pretty difficult, or B, if the deal just dies.
Well, I guess I'll just throw this out. From my standpoint, I think this is probably. Hello?
Go ahead, Paul.
Something just started breaking up. I guess I'll just opine that, we're in an environment where, quite frankly, values are rising, rising at an unbelievable rate here. I'm not sure that revenue is the issue. But even though I haven't seen, we haven't looked at this from a pure cash flow standpoint, but frankly, it seems to me from a community standpoint, it's a good thing to be doing. So I don't know about everybody else on the mud, but I would have a tendency, unless I saw something else, to support this activity.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. I mean, there's other projects that we've talked about where I really struggled to understand the value sometimes. I think, all of us have been affected by the flooding on Research Forest, even if we don't have one of those specific homes. So I think it's pretty clear and is something I can see supporting.
Mhm. Very good. I thought definitely the folks that are on this board from the Alden Bridge area would be supportive of this. Personally, I've gone to, or I tried to get to a party during Hurricane or Tropical Storm Allison, and you couldn't get down Research back then. So I thought that this was something Alden Bridge folks would definitely be for, and I'm a little surprised there's not even more support in public comment and stuff like that, but it does sound like a good project. And I know One Water has been talking about this for in excess of a year, and it's been written about in the paper. This map Jim shared has been published in the paper, so
I don't think, Laura, I don't think that there's a question of if it's a good project or not. I think we can pretty much all agree that it's a great project. It's just, are we paying more than our fair share, right? That's kind of where my pause for consideration is at. And maybe we're getting a bargain here, but I think it's too early for me to tell.
mhm. Very good. I have no problem with your opinion there.
Okay, so consider, right, is and or act. So we can consider and think about this and maybe come back to, revisit this next month as things get fleshed out.
That's fine with me.
Okay.
Others?
Okay, so So we'll just move on, I guess, for the next, since we're not taking action, we're going to move on to the next item. Item number 17, receive the general manager's report.
Thank you. A few items to highlight from the trustee meeting. We reported that we continue to have productive discussions with TACUS regarding construction techniques and notification protocols. We've also worked with TACUS and our attorney the attorney representing us regarding the funds, the damage, collecting the damage funds. We've re-invoiced the 5 private contractors that are working for TACUS with support from TACUS in identifying who they were in the areas where the damage occurred. We've set a deadline of receiving those funds next week. I think if we don't receive payment, we're prepared to take legal action. So we'll see how that plays out. We also had a report on cybersecurity from our IT consultant talking about what has been done to protect our IT systems, both computers and the billing software and other IT information. The takeaway from me was that, you know, all are subject to getting a ransomware attack, but the current systems in place would put us in a position where no ransom would need to be paid. We could simply reboot everything and be up and running within a very short period of time without paying any ransom to recover that information or get to information that was hacked.
Hey, Jim, I just, having seen that presentation, I was very, encouraged at the, how far we've come since we did our first audit at my suggestion in a prior administration. I have to say that, this is an environment that changes every day. Okay. So that's number one. So I don't think we should be overly sure of ourselves. Okay. The second thing that I want to call out is that, I'm uncomfortable with a vendor, being our certification of security. And my own view is you don't know what you don't know frequently. And I honestly think we still need to engage, like we did previously, a certifying entity like a CPA firm who has this specialization, and we should engage them, and they should be an outside reviewer and certifier, if you will, of the truths of what we've been told by our vendor. Okay, which is not saying anything bad about the vendor. Okay, like I said, I can have a secure system this morning and have an insecure system this evening. Okay, I mean, that's how rapidly, these hackers, et cetera, move in terms of their capabilities. And I think we still need to continue down that path of making sure that we have somebody checking on somebody else. More of a dual control situation than just one voice by a vendor who we pay presumably.
And I understand it and agree. And I don't, it probably wasn't fully explained, but we are still using another third party vendor to do the vulnerability scans every quarter for our system. And they are essentially looking over SciTalk, our main vendor, looking over their shoulder and making recommendations and observations as well. So we do have a dual consulting arrangement with one with SciTalk, one with Synergy, and their Synergy's overlooking what SciTalk does. So that's in place, and it's been in place for a couple of years now.
Right.
But we,
So,
I'm
Jim,
happy to.
I think it's using the term vendor, right? So we've got our day-to-day IT vendor, and then we have basically a third-party oversight firm that is confirming.
Cybersecurity expert firm. I mean, that's really all they do is cybersecurity. SciTalk does more than that, but Centergy, that's their main business model, I think.
Right. So the report that you presented was from Centergy, the security firm,
SciTalk.
SciTalk. Okay. Paul, does that address your concern?
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's what we want to accept, that's fine, okay? And, you know, is it a, you know, are they giving us, you know, are they rendering opinions, okay, within the framework of the existing industry, okay? I don't really know them. So, you know, if Jim's satisfied with that, I mean, you know, that's fine. You know, I think we needed a little bit deeper presentation at some point. I was, you know, in the presentation, you know, I was concerned that while the gentleman who represented the company that provides us with day-to-day, you know, he took us through his high-level presentation of why we should never be concerned about a problem. He did have an entire page of listed additions, changes, et cetera. If I remember correctly, Jim, and correct me if I'm wrong, that he was working on. So I'm just, you know, I'm always concerned that we have dual control over that. We have some outside expert who is equipped to certify, you know, what a vendor tells us in this area, you know, especially, right? It's kind of like we have our own internal accounting, but we also have a outside firm who's actually preparing our annuals and they're doing it to standards. And that's all you know, that's all I can say on it.
And I want to emphasize that it is not a static situation. It is Marine is continually getting information, continually making modifications, adjustments. I think all of our staff can attest to that. We're routinely updating security, changing passwords, changing protocols.
Yeah, Jim,
it's
that's
a
fine.
constant.
You
It
know,
is a constant.
I get that. I get that. I sent you a document, Jim. And, you know, hopefully you've taken a look at it. And if you feel comfortable that you have proper oversight, that's your, you know, that's your bailiwick. So
I did open the document and I'm trying to digest that document and how it might help us. I haven't gotten there yet.
okay.
Jim, was there anything else in your report?
Just there's a monthly report from HARC in your packet. There's also the comments that the consortium with HARC's help prepared for phase 2 of the Lone Star Groundwater District subsidence study. We'll also be releasing HARC's Science Advisory Committee report on additional subsidence monitoring locations around Montgomery County. That should be coming out this week. And we continue to work with the San Jacinto River Authority in developing a short list of lobbyists and consultants that can put us in a position to take advantage of any money that may come out of the Biden infrastructure plan. And we are working on scheduling a meeting with Congressman Brady and his staff to give us some guidance and feedback on that topic as well.
Excellent. Thank you, Jim. So let's, I see that Dan Colkhorst has rejoined us. So let's go ahead and go back and see if there's an update for that 1488 project. Dan, are you ready to speak about that?
I am, and it's going to be very, very brief. I was putting a presentation earlier this week, and I was talking to Donnie Reed. Of course, everybody, y'all all know that we've had a pretty significant increase in construction pricing over the last few months. So I asked Donnie to go back and relook at the construction costs associated with this project proposing for you guys. And when he gets those numbers back to me, I'll be able to put that back in the presentation and plan on being with you guys next. And that concludes my report.
Okay. Thank you, Dan.
Yeah.
And we'll go ahead and move on to hear Laura's report. Laura, would you like to go
Yeah.
ahead?
So back to the Lone Star meeting that was last week, there were 14 speakers and 13 of them were really good people. And they talked about addition of the subsidence metric. Most of them were for the 80% drawdown remaining. I spoke, and Paul Brown was there. I'm continuing to work on stopoursinking.com. And in addition to the articles that were in our packets, I was quoted many times in the Kingwood Tribune, and I was called alternately Lori or Laura Norton. So check that out. We did, like that you've heard already, we can go back to meetings now, but one of the things in the summary of the trustee was a recommendation that the individual MUDs go back to in-person meetings. But while I am vaccinated, I kind of like this Zoom, the ability to do the screen shares and all of that, but I don't care one way or another, whatever you guys should decide to do. I did see the CyTalks cybersecurity presentation. It was given by Ben Farmer, and he is a resident. I think he said he's in MUD 47.
Yep.
CyTalks stands for Change is the Only Constant. He was a good presenter, and I was impressed with his firm. He even sends fake emails to the staff at Woodlands Water. But my take from the whole thing, in my career, I was once a COBOL programmer when they needed a lot of flexibility there with the Y2K, remember that? And I've done a lot of database backups, and they work really well. So basically, if you're attacked, you can go back to the database the moment prior, and that kind of thing. It worked really well. That was back in the 2000s, but the disasters happened then too. Down at the AMR, AMI, we continue to talk about the towers there, and I had a note in here. I wanted to get the addresses of those areas so that I could go, and everyone here could go look and see what the towers look like, the communication towers for the AMI, AMR. And my last note was the big news you might have seen in the Houston Chronicle is that Russ Poppy of the Harris County Flood Control District resigned. And the political fight there is have LMI properties, that stands for low to medium income properties. Do they have enough money coming their way from the bond projects and other things? And in fact, it's been reported that they've had a great deal of money spent, and it's places like Kingwood where it's not LMI that's not getting the money. So that's the politics behind that. And he is, of course, the president of the regional flood planning group that our Neil Gaynor is trying to get on. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. And July 8th is their next meeting. And we'll find out whether he makes it or not. That's my summary. Any questions?
I would add, I forgot to mention that there was a proclamation approved by the trustees regarding Woodlands Water staff during the COVID and the freeze, and we got that executed today, and we'll be sending a copy of that to the trustees later this week. I mean, the directors, excuse me.
Okay, well, thank you, Laura. Thank you, Jim. We will move on to item number 19, consider and act on installing benches recognizing service of Biff Pacone and Arthur Breedhoff. So we'll go ahead and open this up to discussion. Okay, so no discussion. You want to just go straight for the vote? Do I hear will someone move to approve and act on installing the benches?
News about Russ Poppy.
What,
I'd like to move that we don't spend our money on this. I think it's self-serving and self-aggrandizing, and it's not in our mission.
This is
And I'll
Brian.
just-
Just to be clear, if the board doesn't want to move forward, there doesn't have to be a motion to not take action. There just would be a call for a motion, and if there's not a motion, or if there is a motion in a second and it doesn't pass, then that would be the end of the discussion.
thanks, Brian. I would like to make a motion to approve the benches. Laura was able to get, talk a little bit about self-aggrandizing, but I don't see it that way. I heard some objections from the public this morning, or when we first started, and it is correct that our mission is water and sewer and drainage, but I also look at it from a bigger picture in protecting and preserving and enhancing our residents' values, their property values, the community, the sense of community that we have here. So when I make decisions here, when I think of things that we do here, I think of maximizing the fantastic facilities that we already have. Can we get more out of our drainage that's already there? Can we make things dual purpose at a minimal cost? So when I brought this idea to the board, it wasn't because I thought Arthur did this and Biff did this or served this board because they wanted a bench one day, right? I brought this to the board. I brought this item up there because they did a great job, decades here, right? When we went through the freeze and we had water, we never lost water pressure. A lot of that had to do with the decisions that they made, and Jim's decisions too, because I know that they weren't the engineers that designed it, but these were the kind of items that they were tasked with for over 20 years. So, neither of these board members asked for a bench, but I thought that having the bench available for our residents in areas that they populate and watch their kids play, or need a break from a run or a walk within our district would be something valuable for everyone. So I would like to make a motion to go ahead and install those benches.
May I say something else?
Go ahead, Laura.
Thank you. The way I see it, the township has a program for residents that would like to have a memory of their deceased loved one. They may buy a bench, it's a donation, and the township works with those residents to build the bench. At my local pond here off of Shadow Bend, there's a bench, and it is a memorial for someone that passed. And it has a phrase or something to remember the person. And so that family contributed from their funds to build that bench. And the township has a program to cost effectively put benches in our parks, and that passes the financial burden to people that want to do that for a loved one. And similar to the Rosemary Row bench that we did, it was a charitable contribution. And I think that that's appropriate, because when I look at their service, it's not like they built a Habitat for Humanity home and that kind of thing. What they were a mud director, and staff prepared board packets. And, I like to say they serve it to us on a silver platter. They provide them every, we can see them online, or we can see the paper and we can read about it. And they chose to run for the board, and in one case, not even live in Mud 47. So it's just the principle of it. I don't think that we should get into building benches. I've asked other mud directors if they think it's appropriate, and they do not. But you're right, they didn't come tonight and speak on that. But thank you for allowing me to speak.
So I made the motion. Do I hear a second? Okay, hear none, the motion fails. So we'll move on to item number 20, discuss any matters for placement on future agendas.
Is Paul Brown still in this meeting?
It looked like he dropped off.
I would request that you take a careful look at our cost allocations for the Bear Branch, Panther Branch Research Forest Drive, and we'll have that on your agenda next month. But I just offered that I think it's going to be critical that Mud 47 participate in that, or the project could fail.
Okay, Jim. Yeah, and I'm just picky about that. So if you could make sure to put in there how, just the methodology, how do you came up with 3 million and 7 million, right? And I'll ask questions. So the sooner you give it to me, the better I'll be able to understand it, the more I'll be more comfortable with it. And I think that goes for everyone else here on the board too, right?
Yeah, thank you, Anthony.
Okay. Any other items before we adjourn? Okay. Do I have a movement to adjourn?
So moved.
I'll second.
All right. Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Cynthia. So we'll go ahead and, well, I guess we can just call that, right? Or do we have to vote on it?
I'll
Fine.
agree.
This is Brian. A motion's not necessary for adjournment.
Oh, okay, great.
It's not necessary.
Then I guess we will adjourn, and we'll see everyone here on Zoom at least one more time for the month of July. Thank you all.
Everybody.
Great.
you.
Thanks, everyone.
Stay dry.